I mean, before we get to, obviously the big news.
Yeah.
The big news this week. I want to talk about hummus.
Yeah, I do too, because I noticed you had what I like to call a small tub of holy hummus, or, like an appetizer size.
Yeah, I know you really like that one. Well, I got some news for you,
And I
pal.
could polish, before you say that, I just want to say I could polish that off with a bag of almond thin crackers in about 20 to 40 seconds.
Like a stone wheat thin guy?
That's wheat. I like the almond thin ones because it's not like so bready, so you can just pound the hummus.
It's just a vehicle. It's just like a vehicle.
A vessel
to get it in your mouth.
Yeah.
I like a snap pea.
Yeah. Oh, sure. A carrot. Mini carrot.
Mini carrot. Baby carrot.
Some pita is nice if I'm feeling a little...
I go to Parthenon, which is a kind of Greek-style place. And I get the hummus there. Honestly, I actually have been making my own Palestinian-style hummus in solidarity.
That's cool.
So... that does that as well. I like with that, you kind of almost put like an oil kind of a crushed pet chili on top.
I've had it. It's delicious. You've made it. But something about, and Alex will make hummus sometimes too. I haven't tried. I should. And she's tried to get the holy hummus
style.
It's a lot of garlic flavor.
Yeah.
A whole lot of garlic. And she hasn't quite nailed it.
Right.
I don't know what it is. There's something about the recipe.
Well,
it's all the ingredients are there.
Well, there's only a few things that go in.
I know, but
That's
it's
the
how
thing.
much.
Well, that's how you do it.
And it's thicker. I think there's less.
See, I like it wet.
You like it creamy. Kinda.
Wet, not creamy, just oily, I think.
But what about Yeah.
I don't mind if it falls off the bread.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'd put that on a sandwich.
Well, you know what? I
Spread
often
it on
do.
a sandwich.
Spread them, pal. You know what I'm saying?
100%. I was just down at Fufu.
The Instagram food place.
A few blocks away here somewhere. It was it's called that, and I don't know what was going on, but there was a lot of people in there eating.
Yeah.
And nobody working.
Well, I don't really know what the food is in there. It's like pancakes, but it's all like it's for Instagramming. All the food's like Instagrammable. Okay. I don't think it's like really even a restaurant.
I was looking around for like a camera crew because I thought they were just filming a movie in there, and they like the angle. They didn't need anybody behind the counter. Because I just wanted to get a coffee, and it seemed impossible.
Well, it's a goddamn impossible.
And then
way
someone
of life.
emerged and sold me one
from the shadows, from behind
sort of popped
Johnny
up
Depp's
from behind the counter.
amp.
Yeah.
New Clapton tonight.
What does that mean?
New single coming out.
New Clapton tonight in my coffee. New Clapton tonight in my cream. Ooh.
Nice. He's got a new single coming out tonight. Video's going up. It's the song is called "This Has Gotta Stop."
No way.
Yeah. Do you want me to read some of the lyrics to you?
Respect, dude. He's stepping out.
I was on his Instagram, and people are just like, not more of this anti-vax
He's
bullshit.
Losing fans by the second.
Yeah, I know. I got some lyrics here. It was kind of hard to find because it's not out till tomorrow. Lyrics though. This has got to stop. Enough is enough. I can't take this BS any longer.
Wow. He should have just said bullshit.
It's gone far enough. If you want to claim my soul, you'll have to come and break down this door. I knew that something was going on wrong when you started laying down the law.
Are we sure this is about the vaccine and COVID-19 related? Because maybe it's the devil finally coming to claim his soul.
Be. Yeah.
For him being able to play mediocre blues.
I actually thought it was Luke, friend of the pod, who knows having a really tough time with this Charlie Watts stuff.
Well, something about Luke, I will say this to his credit, he's a very sensitive man, and he takes rock and roll losses hard.
Yeah, he does, yeah. He's out there playing 5 nights a week. If anyone's kind of ready to step up in a Keith's shoes, it's Luke.
That's kind of what I meant about when I said I don't actually respect Clapton's stance on this, but I'm kind of like, you know what? Stop talking about it and get out there and do it like Luke.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not writing songs about it. Why don't you get out on the stage and prove it?
Down toe to toe.
Coyotes.
Open stage night.
Yeah, this
Settle
Thursday.
Settle it on the stage. Solo.
Get on down to Break Room 86.
I know, I've heard
in
it.
Koreatown and settle it on the stage. With
First of all, you're going to have to try and find your way to the stage. I mean, through a vending machine or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not easy.
Yeah. And then you know, you're going to have to sidle up next to Jimmy Sweet there and try to go toe-to-toe with Paquin. Good luck.
I mean, luckily, it's a synth-heavy kind of scene there. It's not the kind of 70s kind of good time.
Not to mention Thomas. You know, Clapton would kind of be outmatched on either side on that stage,
Triple
in my
guitar
opinion.
attack. Yeah, that could be the end of it for him.
If he kind of was embarrassed and showed up in that place on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And somebody had a camera rolling.
Yeah.
That's it.
Done.
But of course, as Luke said, Clapton would never take the risk.
No.
And put himself in that position.
No. Exactly.
As we know, even when he went toe-to-toe with Robbie Robertson, he had the whole strap thing planned.
Excuse planned. Yeah.
So that he'd have a chance to...
Yeah.
Or no, wait a minute. That's... Well, you know what I'm saying.
Well, maybe it is like a kind of Russian espionage move.
Yeah, because it's like, I didn't
have a chance. Yeah. Like, my fucking strap broke.
Yeah. You call that I didn't even get... I was just getting started.
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of respect for Muddy. He had to come on stage. I didn't want to get...
Plus, I had to sing.
Yeah.
Robbie's just sitting there waiting to jump in and
he's all Vaselined up.
Yeah, exactly. He's basically set up the whole storyboarded the whole event.
Maybe
with Marty.
It was the Vaseline from his chest that got greased up
Clapton's
knob. His strap knob. Strap knob. You know, I mean...
You're saying that Robbie Robertson's Vaseline greased up Clapton's knob.
I think it's possible. You know, I've seen stranger things happen. But I wanted to make a shout out to Luke for a different reason because, and this is kind of Clapton adjacent, partial lineage for sure. You know, we've talked a lot on this podcast about Spotify being the only kind of arbiter of success.
Yep.
And the only way you can judge anything musical. And on those terms, Clapton wrote I Shot the Sheriff.
Really?
Because it's bigger on Spotify than Marley.
Well, he certainly did the greatest version.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't deny that.
That's been proven.
It's proven. So I thought that was interesting.
That's amazing news.
Well, it's interesting because it's I think that's maybe the first instance of what we will see happening with Stay Most Depp. It's that kind of thing where it's like when the Hollywood Vampires version of Heroes is bigger than...
Is it not already?
Surprisingly not. Huh. Yeah. I guess people are still into Bowie.
Get over it, you know?
Well, move also, on. Like...
The vampires, as I said, they're doing it. They're out there.
They're out there.
This is going on in real time.
With great merch. You can get, like, a Hollywood Vampires, like, thong.
Yeah.
That's kind of a... That's very Depp style.
Oh, totally.
You probably get, like, some kind of golf. Like, maybe they do, like...
A visor.
Probably a visor.
I would get that.
Yeah, a Hollywood Vampires visor.
I would like that. Yeah. I'm going to order. I'm going to check if there is.
Well, what about signature golf balls?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Foo-foo.
Cool. It would have to be like kind of purple or something glow in the dark.
No, kinda. It's more kind of... Because it's the strip, so it's like sleazy, like Dice and Jack Daniels and stuff.
Right. Anyway, yeah, Foo-foo. So the name of this restaurant reminded me that you had an interesting story from your weekend.
Oh yeah, I saw Sophie's father, who's a jazz guy, and I recounted your story of Foo-foo the drummer to him,
hanging with Coltrane,
hanging out with Miles, and being like, "Damn, I nearly knocked that motherfucker out."
Yeah,
player. And then with Train being like, "He's cool."
He was cool.
And I asked Sophie's dad about it, and he was like, "Who's this fucking motherfucker?" And I was like, told him his name. He's like, "That guy's never played a fucking note with those guys."
Wow.
It's like, that guy's never played a fucking note with them.
He's
making up. I know every drummer that's played with those guys.
And he like knew his real name, right?
Yeah, he was just like, that guy's...
Clifton Eddy.
Yeah. I've looked up Clifton Eddy.
I didn't look up whether it's true or not, but...
It's a good story, though, and that's all that matters.
Well, what I say is shots fired. You know, some of these old jazz guys, I think, honestly, Sophie's dad and Fufu might have to settle it on the stage.
Yeah, I mean, it would be kind of like drum solo to sax.
I'd love to see that.
I'd love to see that.
Mm-hmm. You know, or just like get together, jam it out, put some sounds together.
Seriously,
kind of like more of a like a therapeutic.
Oh,
you know, why do
cathartic.
we always have to settle it on the stage? Let's get together.
Make something.
Let's put something together. Put some sounds together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Kind of, yeah.
Create out of the friction.
Create something new. When that's the only way things do get created.
Yeah. When you put up a building, you have to first, blow up the ground. Demolition, the foundation.
Demolish.
You blow it, sort of blasting. Blasting leads to building.
Revolution, not evolution.
Exactly.
Yeah. Shout out to a couple. What was the last episode that we did?
It was like this.
But was it on any? I don't remember.
We just really had a good
time. A lot
time
going on.
We just chatted. There was a lot of interesting
input from our patrons.
I think that we talked a lot about. Well, I'm not even going to try to remember.
I don't remember, but Trevor Spencer, friend of the pod,
great friend of mine,
got in touch with us
friend as well.
Particularly interested in the sort of Mayer Strat, Mayer kind of Knopfler, Clapton, Cale Strat thing, and a little bit of intel with regards to Mayer's small guitar.
Oh, he would know about this.
Yeah, he said, talking guitars here, I'm pretty sure Mayer is playing a Casio MIDI guitar only because someone left one at my studio.
Wow.
So it kind of is like a kind of rock band style thing.
The headstock, I actually thought I recognized the sigil. And it's Casio.
I think it's a Casio MIDI guitar.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
So that if it's MIDI, then quite honestly, it could be going through GarageBand.
Well, I assume that's what he's doing.
And being controlled, off stage or
like in like a lab.
Yeah.
Or in like
switching
a kind
amps,
of data bank in like Lapland, where it's really cold because presumably he needs a lot of algorithms, a lot of hard drives.
Yeah, he would definitely need a lot of different tones during a show.
Well, if it's MIDI,
I'd like to check out the tour, honestly. Or is it coming through
Vancouver?
A lot of
processing power.
Yeah.
We're talking like deep blue.
Right.
Wild blue.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a sign that he's talking about, like he's got one of those old chess style computers. Seamlessly switch. It plays itself. I don't know.
Paul Hawley, friend of the pod.
Yeah.
Good drummer.
Yeah, good drummer.
He wrote me and said, check out this Coldplay song that Wild Blue is a direct ripoff of from Parachutes.
Oh.
It's the chord. It's that one, bone sinking like stone. The chord progression is the same. Sounds very similar.
Love that song, yeah.
Sounds very similar. Not an identical rip, but I appreciate it.
Was that the Coldplay record that they all dressed like Magical Mystery Tour Beatles? Sgt.
I think that's
ones.
the one, the first one.
Oh, it's earlier.
With yellow. And
it's
all
not
that.
When they hadn't. But it's interesting because you bring up songs sounding like other songs because you sent me that. Olivia Rodriguez, who's a young female pop star, is very successful right now. I think she's one of the Disney kind of impresarios.
Yeah.
She was criticized by the establishment journalists of copying other bands' songs. Yeah. And including, and I think I'm just going to pull this up because I really like this when you sent it to me, and I know you did too.
It cheered me up.
So the article headline reads, Olivia Rodrigo accused of plagiarism by Courtney Love and others. Of course, Courtney Love is
that makes sense.
Just trying to stay relevant with like some young woman who is like stealing her limelight or something.
I don't even know.
And then this guy, whoever it is, tweeted, no shit. First song on this album is pretty much a direct lift from Elvis Costello. To which Elvis Costello responded, this is fine by me, Billy. It's how rock and roll works. You take the broken pieces of another thrill and make a brand new toy. That's what I did. And then he hashtags, and I think this is where it gets interesting, Subterranean Homesick Blues, and then hashtags Too Much Monkey Business. So, I mean, you can read... I kind of read it wrong, and I think you know what that means.
Well, yeah, I mean, I read it as though he was saying, take a look at those two songs and how Dylan was pretty clearly influenced by Too Much Monkey Business in the delivery,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think out, Johnny's in the basement looking up the medicine, Too Much Monkey Business. And then station of a dollar gas, check the oil, dollar gas. And
then I was thinking about Pump It Up.
Running to and fro, hard working in the mill, never fail at the mill. Sorry, I just had to make sure I knew how that went.
So I'm thinking that anyway, it makes me think, what is with all these fucking rock and roll, like these classic rock stars suing?
Some of them, not
well, obviously Elvis won't do it, but like
yeah.
I was thinking about like obviously some of the most famous ones, like Bittersweet Symphony, like Jagger and Richards.
Wasn't that more Andrew Lou Goldham's kind of
so
championing that? Like
when the Verve's record label tried to clear a sample from their already completed album Urban Hymns, the Stones' late business manager, Alan Klein, took the opportunity to negotiate, quote,
Shredder,
one final kill on behalf of the band.
Wow. That's heavy.
So, yeah, Klein apparently just wanted to discourage anyone ever using samples, ever. So went after them, and this was all resolved after he died.
Interesting.
The new Stones manager resolved it. But I'm sure, like, they made millions, and like Jagger and Richards being like, oh yeah, he's, well, that sounds all right, actually.
I have no doubt. I know, and it's weird when it's people like you were talking about Tom Petty.
Yeah.
And
Petty's really interesting because he kind of did this like, Sam Smith's song, Stay With Me or whatever, like, that sounded a bit like I Won't Back Down. And they do, like, in the sense that they're both songs sound the same.
Yeah, with a melody.
Yeah, with 3 chords.
Like, yeah, with 3 chords.
Yeah. And they, like, and it's like
3-note melody over the chord.
And the thing that's, I think's annoying about the Tom Petty one is that he kind of said, like, there's no hard feelings. These things happen. Like, me and Sam have talked about it and dealt with it. Most times you catch this before it gets out the studio door, but in this case it got by. But it's like, you still fucking took royalties from him. And only so that, like, Sam Smith only did it so you wouldn't litigate his ass. So it's interesting, like, he kind of comes off as this cool guy, but it's like, dude, you literally, your whole career started you doing Dylan and, like, old 45s, like R&B 45s. It's brutal.
It's just, I just don't think, I mean, there are some cases, like in the case of, I'd say, there's a couple of Zeppelin cases that were pretty bad.
Yeah.
Where they, like,
just ripped
the Stairway to Heaven one's
they kind of nicked a song.
It's like called Stairway to Heaven, the song, and like the riff's the same.
Yeah.
It's like if you're just, I mean, it's so, what Elvis said is so true. Like, that's how it works. There's 12 notes, there's chords, melodies are in the air. Like, I think I saw a thing that, like, a computer realized that there's no new they've all been used, every melody, like, combination or something.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, like, in the case of those old, like, bands like Beatles, Stones, Petty, whatever, they were all nicking from...
Of course. And you got these documentaries where they're saying that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yet Tom Petty will, like, there's some kind of borderline copyright allegation.
I know.
And ruthless, cutthroat businessman suing a guy for writing a song which has, like, 4 words in it or something.
I don't know. I was always glad that Dylan didn't
coming
do it.
out with his team being like, hey, listen, I'm a cool guy. We sorted it out. This shouldn't have got in the papers.
Yeah, we settled out of court.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, $8 million, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
and Sam Smith's like said, like, I've never heard of Tom Petty before. Like, I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Sam Smith ended up getting like a Grammy nomination for that song. And the Grammys are probably so used to this because of like Blurred Lines, Marvin Gaye as well, and Robin Thicke, like, and Bittersweet Symphony, which was like the Grammy was going to be given to Jagger and Richards, you know, like. So now they've had to change what they're doing. So it's like their new rules are like, oh, like, because Petty and Mike Campbell didn't do any new writing for this Sam Smith song, we can give the Grammy to Sam Smith. It's like how Springsteen still wins a Grammy every year.
Yeah.
Every single year, best rock album. It's like he released a record. They just find ways to give him he owns the Grammy. All these guys.
And they're just ripping off themselves. See, it's a fine line.
Well,
if you're just stealing from your own catalog, you see.
Well, unless you're John Fogerty.
All right.
He can't even steal from himself.
He couldn't even do his own, so yeah.
He's not even allowed to.
Oh, yeah, because that's right. He got sued for doing a song like Run Like the Jungle. That's just, talk about an impossible way of life.
Too much perspective. No, that is Impossible Way of Life.
That's brutal.
But there's also Radiohead and Lana Del Rey.
What did she do?
Well, this one gets really complicated. So
Radiohead, I could tell you what they ripped off right after this.
Well, Radiohead was suing her for a song that she had called Get Free that sounded like their song Creep. And this one's really good because The Guardian spoke to a professional composer to analyze the songs. And all this shit is just... some guys like, oh, I can analyze them. It's my job. You know, I'm a professional, not a musician, who noted that the chords used were rare chords in pop music.
I was just about to say that Creep progression is like so generic. Like,
well, no, apparently it's a rare chord that's used.
It's like G to E or something.
So
it
sounds like a Sinatra song or something, like a dark kind of.
Yeah, I know what I mean. It's got that kind of like haunting progression.
Yeah. Baroque.
But I've heard it before.
Well, this is where it gets interesting. So I guess Radiohead sued her. So the Hollies sued them.
Because they did it.
Yeah, because the Hollies was like, this is a song, The Air That I Breathe. We already wrote it.
That's where I've heard it.
Yeah.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, my brain was working. I was like, what is it? Yeah, that's it.
It's crazy. So there's always these people who can just do it. I like that, though.
If I could make a wish, I think I know. That's probably Sinatra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
amazing. It's a joke. You can't give people a break.
Honestly. But this is the thing. These guys won't. They won't give anyone a break.
I even thought like when rap was sampling, that was all good. That was so cool, you know, like in the 80s.
What, Two Live Crew and things like that?
Beastie Boys, like, you know.
Or the
Run
Grey
DMC.
album, that famously, Danger Mouse, the Jay-Z and Beatles record.
I thought that was sweet.
Yeah.
Like, just let it go. Like,
you'd think that McCartney would be cool with that kind of stuff, but...
He's not?
He's not cool with anything, is he?
Has he done this? Well, you try to rip off a Beatles.
Try getting near that stuff. Speaking of which...
I might try.
Let It Be. New mixes. Is this another example of McCartney? So these are coming out 10 days before the Peter Jackson... Okay, McCartney's definitely got a thing for Let It Be.
Yeah.
Because he's already remixed it once. He's already done that.
It's a bittersweet symphony for him.
And now there's another version of it coming out just before Peter Jackson's Get Back. I guess it's to prep you for Get Back, maybe.
And let me guess, Giles Martin has remixed it?
Well, listen, man. This shit cracked me up. So Giles Martin
and Danny Harrison, they're teaming up to remix it.
Giles Martin, son of George Martin.
Yeah.
And I found this article, and hang on one second. I got to get it. This shit is wild. I'm just going to get it up. Rolling Stone's doing their paywall thing on me, so I got to do my little hack here where I just open it and then turn it off. Okay. So I could do 45 minutes on this because this made me laugh so much. So Giles Martin is remixing Let It Be. He's already remixed a couple of Beatles records in Dolby Atmos. So this is some kind of spatial surround sound, but it sounds as though, from reading this Rolling Stone article with him, that he's just learning on the job. Like, he's never mixed anything before, and he's learning just using Beatles albums. Because listen to this. Sergeant Pepper's is a question for him. Sergeant Pepper's was the first Atmos mix you did. What was the process like? And he says, this has been released. And he's like, Sergeant Pepper's, well, I'm actually going to change it. It doesn't sound right to me. It's actually out on Apple Music, but I'm going to replace it. It's not right. So he's just like putting out mixes of Sergeant Pepper's only to like be like, oh, I've got better at it now.
It's like, imagine if you and I were like doing mixes for but like just releasing every
No, I know.
Every
being like, how's this sound? Yeah, that's what he's doing.
He's like, hey guys, I put it out on Apple. If it doesn't sound right, I'll just do it.
But with Sergeant Pepper's.
With fucking Beatles.
He says here, he's like, Sergeant Pepper's is I did a theatrical mix. It's a bit bright and a bit digital, but I'm going to replace it, so that's cool. He's replacing Sergeant Pepper's with his just like kind of...
Wow.
He's like learning how to mix, and he's just
gall.
Like... And then it goes on. And then the person says to him, Abbey Road does sound a bit better, actually, yeah. There's something a little floaty about the way Sergeant Pepper's, your mix is. And he's like, yeah, it seems to lack a bit of bass and a little bit of weight behind it. Abbey Road is a much better functioning mix. It's closer to the stereo mix sonically. But I'm cool with it because I'm just going to replace Sergeant Pepper's. This just keeps going.
I tell you, I listened to that I remember that when that Abbey Road remix came out a couple years ago that he did.
Sergeant Pepper's.
Oh, but he did Abbey Road too.
Oh,
recently.
He did Abbey Road, but in Atmos.
2 years ago. They put out like a 50th anniversary. I'm sure he did that remix.
Yeah.
And it did not sound better at all.
Well, it's
hard
very
to top that
interesting
mix.
because the person asking him questions doesn't understand. No one, I think, understands what this stuff is.
Remember, didn't they do a White Album? I think, but yeah, and I think we talked about this. Is where now we're getting near 100 episodes is starting to happen. But I think we talked about this, and we were like, we listened to it, and it was like he turned down the guitar solo in "While My Guitar Gently Weeps."
Yeah,
and I was just like, who do you think you are to turn down anything like that? You know.
Well, it's interesting because he's asked here about his mixing process. Like, great. His mix process.
I'd love to hear that.
I presume you start with one channel, the right, and then move to the left. And he's like, well, actually, I start off in stereo. If it's EDM, obviously, I'll do something like that because it's more in mono. But with the Beatles, it's a bit different. Like,
oh my God! That's all he does is EDM and Beatles.
Yeah,
amazing.
Let me find this a really good bit. He moves the organ in "She's So Heavy," which is cool. But this is a good question.
That's right. See,
I've heard some Atmos mixes of classic songs where the vocal is a bit more up front than it ever was before, and you suddenly realize the vocalist was actually pitchy that day, and Atmos can expose flaws. So how do you avoid that? Motherfuckers tuning the vocals. Well, it's a bit like we can fix timing errors and tuning stuff like that. And
he's tuning Beatles?
He's tuning up the Beatles vocals for his Atmos mixes.
Dude, this is a hot take, man.
And then he's like, we tend to blend the sound, so it's more like a Monet painting than the Beatles expected. But music's like that, When you have a drum kit or a singer in front of you, you don't necessarily hear them directly like that. You hear something together in space. So it's pretty interesting.
I hate this guy. Let me tell you one thing. You can do whatever you want if you're making new music. Tune it up, do it, but don't fuck with fucking Beatles.
Don't tune up
John. Don't tune up John's
His body's not even cold,
No,
man.
you can't.
No.
You can't. Just let it be.
Let him be.
let it be.
Seriously. Well, one of his issues he's finding...
tuning up like Elvis and stuff,
presumably
like Sam Cooke records.
Well, listen.
Good luck.
Yeah, Giles Martin has a lot of interesting stuff coming because one of the only reasons he's not approached, and he's been asked by a lot of people to do this. He makes it known.
I bet
Revolver or Rubber Soul. One of the issues is that there isn't enough, the technology's not there yet, because what he needs is source separation software. So needs
for the bounce track?
He needs the bounce tracks to be able to be split back up. A good example of this is he's taken out the crowd noise in some stuff because it's like it gets in the way of the performance. So yeah, he's waiting. His issue is
waiting so that he can take those like 4-track makes it split up all the tracks.
Well, like I'll give you an example
and take
here.
away all the charm and character.
Well, like for example, like on the Hollywood Bowl, like live at the Hollywood Bowl, Beatles Atmos that he did, he took out the crowd noise because there was source separation technology to take it out.
Yeah.
So he needs to make sure like that technology doesn't harm the audio. And again, he says here, despite the constant requests I get on Twitter to do Revolver and Rubber Soul, I just want to make sure that I benefit the songs.
Why would anybody think that's a good idea? Like, I really don't
dad's
get
George Martin
to change the music. Like, I don't get that. Let's separate all the instruments and then make it sound totally different. Like,
because this work's never done.
But it wasn't meant to be done.
This work is never done.
Giles, I bet you they're gonna get him to do like Dark Side or something.
There's too many of them are alive.
I guess, yeah.
That does feel like an Atmos record for sure.
It's Abbey Road. Like, he's the guy at Abbey Road now. He's like running the show.
I know.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is he's like getting John's vocal, playing it through like a loudspeaker into like Studio 2 to hear what it would have sounded like if like John had Studio 2's ambience on him instead of... It's stuff like that.
They got it all wired up with Atmos now?
Yeah, well, that's the only way to mix. I mean, I've got to spend about $400,000 on a whole new setup.
Can you just get some like Atmos headphones? Can I do that?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because he talks specifically about Atmos experience on headphones because he's like, there's actually an exponential growth in the technology and demand for spatial audio headphones. So he says in 2 years, his mixes will be able to be listened to like on Spotify, etc. Like in Atmos.
Oh, meaning like...
I don't know how you would do that.
You can isolate things yourself or something?
Like maybe it's like a chip. It could be like a 5G
and you could just be like, let me just hear, like you touch your head like you're Professor Xavier and then you can just hear the bass.
Exactly. Or you can just be like
Revolver?
Siri, Pam, organ right. You can mix it yourself, maybe.
Oh, kind of interactive mixing.
Yeah, I think that's what the Beatles would have wanted.
Yeah, that's how they want you to hear it. Yeah. What would his dad think of this? That's what I want to know. I bet you all these articles are after George passed.
Oh, yeah, big time.
There's no way he'd be like, right, that's enough.
That's enough from you.
Yeah.
That's enough from you. Now go and speak to your mother.
Yeah, exactly. But he obviously, George Martin died and he's like, took things over.
Well, no one's really taken over the Beatles' legacy yet because McCartney's too strong. So like Donnie's waiting. Donnie's tried with his dad.
Yeah. Well, he just did the whole All Things Must Pass remix.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to that yet.
I wonder if it's
him
EDM.
And like his buddy. It's like him and his
Coke buddy.
Yeah, it's like him and his buddy. He's like got a studio in Burbank or something. He's like, me and Trevor remixed All Things Must Pass.
Yeah, from Trevor from Space Hog.
Yeah. I didn't mean Trevor
Spencer. He could do it.
He actually could do it.
I trust him with the tapes.
100%. He'd do a good job.
Yeah.
But I meant his buddy Trevor from Space Hog, who was the rhythm guitarist.
Yeah, exactly.
In Space.
Yeah.
He's like, he's got a really nice setup over there.
Yeah. Plus a great dealer.
Right near the airport in Burbank. Yeah.
So I can fly in and out.
Yeah, I can fly in and out. It's really easy for me.
It's really easy to fly in and out from my
and then we just
Manhattan
we order some food. The two of us just kind of sit around.
Just kind of geek out.
And just like work on the...
We put
strings on wah-wah.
Yeah, we put a couple of the mixes up on Apple Music, but we think we're just going to take them down.
We're going to change them down, yeah. You probably
it's a bit
heard
bright.
Yeah.
Well, we were doing a lot of EDM at the time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just
mostly,
maybe...
he was doing it in between some EDM
Yeah, he was doing a lot of Tiesto.
And I just,
Well, we were spending the summer in Ibiza that year, so it was kind of cross-pollination.
And, our brains were a little rewired from the whole Ibiza trip, so...
Yeah, so...
We're thinking we
that
put it
4 on the floor that we added to Eleanor Rigby just maybe didn't quite pan out the way we thought it was going to.
Yeah, we're thinking the 50th anniversary sounded a little bright, so we'll fix it up, put it up for the 51st.
Yeah, exactly.
What a joke.
Yeah. Well, I want to get to Charlie, obviously.
I have a lot to say.
Well, I mean, I was reading because the Beatles. Mm-hmm. I was reading the Guardian's McCartney 321 review.
Oh, wow.
Viewed it slightly differently to us.
Is that right?
Yeah. They said that Rubin is a genius. And a few examples is the conversations between McCartney and a godlike Rubin, like an Old Testament style god, presumably it's because of the beard and stuff.
No shoes.
Took place at a recording studio mixing desk where Rubin, like God from Genesis, who has really let himself go, created many new sound worlds. Here, Rubin did something even more amazing than that. He showed McCartney new aspects of his own creations. So this guy thinks that like Paul McCartney learnt, because he presumably didn't know how to use a record or remember recording any of the stuff himself. He says, Rubin played back While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Oh, yeah.
Then by shifting a few levers, Harrison's serenity was silenced and something unexpected came to prominence in all of its glory. McCartney's superbly grungy bass. It was as miraculous as finding another picture beneath an old master. It's almost like these two songs are happening simultaneously, said Rubin.
Wow.
This guy's also...
This isn't Pitchfork?
This is The Guardian. This guy's also thinks it's incredible that, like, Dear Prudence, McCartney disclosed, was, inspired by Mia Farrow and Maharashi and all that stuff. And he said, who knew? Like, who knew any of this stuff? It's incredible.
Everybody.
Every person who's ever...
Also, I thought that While My Guitar Gently Weeps part was hilarious. That he was just like...
What?
Like, no one would ever think it's two different songs to do this. And I was just like, it's really not. It's really just drumming and bass playing. The tone's cool. But,
great tone.
But, like, it makes sense that they do it. I don't know.
Listen.
Some nice castanets on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, let me just tell a little story here, because I was over in Victoria when I heard about Charlie, and... I was very sad to hear that he'd passed.
Yeah.
And I spent the whole day listening to the Rolling Stones, okay? And I went for a big run, and I just put on, Spotify.
Yeah.
Shuffle.
Stones.
All the Stones music. Oh, man. I was just almost on the verge of tears. Just got me so pumped. And I realized that a mere 2 to 3 days before, I had announced
your rankings
on this podcast that the Stones were not in my top
your
5.
Your official ranking.
And
it caused a bit of friction between us.
I felt ashamed.
Well, off mic, we settled it kind of on stage that night. We had to.
You were upset with me, and you let me know, and we dealt with that as friends and as colleagues. I defended my position foolishly, and I went for a run, and I listened to this music, and I was ashamed of myself. Okay. I'd like to officially announce now that after revisiting the Stones catalog in such a visceral and emotional way, that they are now number 5 on my list, and Big Star's been bumped to 6.
Okay,
I had to do it in honor of Charlie, because they're just fucking good, and I realized that, like, especially like honky tonkin' country Stones when they're rocking out. It's just like my favorite thing. It's so good.
So is Charlie Watts the stonesiest Stone?
I'm not so sure about that.
Me neither.
But probably.
I don't know. Isn't Keith the stonesiest Stone?
I think so. I've talked about this before, that to me, the Stones are a rhythm guitar and drums band. Like, to me, Keith and Charlie, you could take everything else away, and it'd be super listenable still. Yeah. Take, for instance, the intro to Honky Tonk Women and Can't You Hear Me Knockin'. Before bass or anything comes in, it's super fun to listen to. That's all you need. And Keith always said that. He's like, when I had a riff, I'd get Charlie and get him in, and we'd work it out.
I think it's about the way that they play together.
Yeah.
But I think there's almost an argument that Jagger's the most rhythmical of all of them, the way he sings too. So I think they're very rhythmical vocals.
No doubt. I just mean that to me, the sound of the Stones is
well, he leads with his right foot, doesn't he?
Yeah, sounds of the music is Keith and Charlie from day one to the end. That's the way I feel.
Yeah,
just how I feel.
Stuart Copeland.
Oh,
Charlie Watts, not just a drummer, a genre. But he says here, and I think actually I've read a lot of this kind of stuff, and it gets wild because some of these guys, like, you know, you want to know what they think about it, you know, because they're peers and contemporaries. Stuart Copeland's actually pretty good. He says, like, you know, people say Charlie was the Stones, there'd be no Stones without him, and he's like, that's going a little far. But looking at it from the other angle, you sure will notice him when he's not there anymore.
Who said that?
Stuart Copeland.
Yeah,
he said it's kind of like bassists. He's like, you take it away and it's like, whoa, something's really missing here, and that's the feel of Charlie will be missed. And if they replace him, this is me, with someone who plays that fourth hi-hat, it's going to drive me crazy. Mayer's guy's got the gig.
I can't believe they're going to replace him.
Well, he's already been replaced by Mayer's drummer.
Enough is enough. Zeppelin broke up when Bonham died in 78 or whatever. Yeah. Just call it quits.
Well, I mean, we're not going to have time.
How are you going to do Charlie like that?
We're not going to have time to talk about it on the pod, and it might actually have to be in a couple of weeks with Bleecker, because this is Bleeker's theory, really. He's saying, mark my words, Ringo will step in. Kind of a Vince McMahon kind of WWE style thing. Like, imagine if Ringo stepped in.
No disrespect to Ringo. You know he's my favorite drummer. Yeah. But does he have the chops?
I think that he parties too hard, maybe.
Well, I think that I don't know if maybe he's a perfect fit. Because they all kind of party.
Yeah, but Charlie's pretty on the back burner with the partying, isn't he? He's kind of like...
Ringo might be too
Exactly. They'll kill him.
Tempted to get involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because Charlie only got into it in the 80s, weirdly, for about 3 years. He stayed out of it for the whole time.
Yeah. I don't know.
I want to develop...
Ringo's more into that kind of slow 4/4 beat these days. I feel.
Well, you know,
there's a lot of upbeat tunes, man. I don't know if Ringo's got the stamina now.
The 3-hour kind of concert.
For that live. Also, he hasn't really done a lot of live shows. Like,
ever.
Yeah.
Actually. Since 1964.
It's just like, yeah, when did they start? In the 70s, he definitely didn't play live a lot, I don't think. Lately, he's done that all-star band thing, but I think he just sings. Yeah. I don't know if he could hack it. Sorry, Bleecker, but we'll get into it.
Well, I'd like to develop that with Bleecker, and I think he's here next week.
Yeah. Didn't Luke say that Steve Jordan's going to get the gig?
Well, I think that's Mayer's guy.
Oh, that is Mayer's guy?
Yeah.
Blues.
Straight blues.
He's got the blues chops, probably.
Well, I got some stuff here. Max Weinberg. His comments.
I'm sure he loved him. Yeah.
Well, he says, when I was a kid in New Jersey, if you were looking for work, there'd be ads for musicians in the mid-60s and 70s, and they would invariably say, wanted, Charlie Watts type drummer. And every beat he plays, he says there's Charlie Watts in there someplace. And he keeps going on, and it makes me think, for example, reading this, like, what he did was unique with the Rolling Stones. Because while it was rock and roll, it was really blues. I have an opinion that the Stones have lasted because they're essentially a blues band.
Wow.
And blues is timeless, you see. So this is Weinberg. I wonder how his son in Slipknot feels about all of this stuff. But
I was listening, man, all day. And by the way, I just want to say, I'm not going to call out the place, but I went out with a friend in Victoria, and every bar we went to was playing Stones.
Yeah.
And even if they weren't, we'd kind of say, put on some Stones. We're having a bit of a wake for Charlie, you know. And then I wound up at this one place pretty much dead. And I went up, ordered a couple beers. I'd had quite a few by that time.
Yeah.
And I just said, oh, very nicely, do you have control of the music in here? And they were like, yeah, we do. And I was like, would you mind putting on a Rolling Stone song for us? The drummer died today. We're having a little bit of a seance kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they kind of didn't say yes or no. And then didn't put it on.
Yeah.
Sat there for half an hour having the beer. Then went back, ordered another round, asked again.
Yeah.
And then the guy came over with a thing of waters and said, here, guys, here's some water for you. As though I was like too drunk.
Wow.
And I'm like, you know what? If I want some fucking water, I'll order it.
Yeah. Well, presumably they have an Atmos system, and Giles Martin hasn't remixed any of the Stones records for their system, so they presumably just have to play EDM.
Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean, though. Like, it was nice of him to bring the water, but when it's that kind of energy
Why don't you tell Nev to go deal with these clowns?
I might have to.
Yeah.
I might have to.
Sounds like it.
Put on the song. There's no one in there. I don't care. Satisfaction, Brown Sugar,
Verve, Bittersweet Symphony.
Sure.
Anything.
Like a Rolling Stone, their version.
Yeah.
I don't care.
A Rolling Stone playlist that doesn't even have the Rolling Stones on it.
Yeah. But anyway, we were listening to it all night, and the drumming is... When you pay attention...
Yeah.
I was listening to Love and Cut, man.
Well, Weinberg says here that when Bruce presented the groove to Born in the USA to him, it reminded him of Street Fighting Man. So on that song, he's doing Charlie Watts. And we don't have the little chord right now that lets us play music at the same time.
Right.
But laugh my ass off, those songs don't sound anything like each other. You turn on Street Fighting Man and it's that like eighth note.
Yeah.
You turn on Born in the USA and it's like this big gated reverb. So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of cool. He's feeling himself. And I wonder if he's trying to get the gig. That's what I'm thinking. If Weinberg's putting himself in contention.
I think he could do it.
You know.
I do think he could. Hey, can I tell you a cool story I heard about Charlie?
Yeah, of course.
I love this. You're going to love it. That one time he was in his hotel room. They were on tour.
Yeah.
And Mick phoned his hotel room. And someone else answered because there were people around him. And he said, "Where's my fucking drummer?"
Oh, it's a classic.
Where's my fucking drummer? Tell my drummer to get up here. You know what I mean? And Charlie got up, got suited up, got all dressed up, and went up to the room. He opened the door and he punched him. And he was like, "Don't ever call me your fucking drummer again. You're my fucking singer."
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean...
I like that.
Weinberg has it gets a bit Spinal Tap, his eulogy. He talks about the first time he met him in a hotel room, and he says, he was wearing a 3-piece Savile Row suit.
Yeah.
Just incredibly turned out, and he invites us into his hotel room so he can unpack. He had 2 beautiful leather suitcases on the bed, and he opened them up. Everything was immaculately folded. There was a precise toiletries kit. You know, it's a kind of a cool vibe. I like the idea. I mean, I pack for tour very specifically, so I think I'm in the Watts camp there. But during this, and this is, again, like, goes right back to McCartney. During this eulogy, Weinberg talks about, this is like welcome to cool stories in rock. He talks about going to see the Stones at Shea Stadium.
Yep.
And he's also seen McCartney there. It's a similar thing. And he says... he was invited by Charlie Watts because he had a couple of like jazz drummer friends who Charlie Watts wanted to meet. And he says, anyone who's been to Shea Stadium backstage knows there's about 10 guest levels, each with slightly more VIP access than the next.
Right on.
10 levels of... It sounds like a nuclear facility.
Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
It's a big place.
Like how many levels up? Is this an elevator?
It's a baseball stadium. I guess 10 seems like a lot though, for sure.
Like you get like a backstage thing, but it only grants you access. And then the inner sanctum is where like McCartney would be, Brian Wilson.
Right.
Those kind of guys.
Yeah. Bob Uecker.
Yeah, sure. Or like maybe just like the baseball, like the owner of the team.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe they don't grant him access. Maybe he,
Weinberg got
into the inner sanctum.
Nice.
So I think he's pitching himself.
I think he could handle the gig purely based on the touring volume,
longevity
that he's done
of show.
Yeah,
because they do like Springsteen. They'll do 4 hours a night.
Well, exactly. He can do it. Like, and he's got that kind of stamina. I've seen Weinberg with the kind of stamina. He can do it.
Yeah.
And I think that also, the Stones have a big decision to make.
Yeah.
Because they're holding strong to that number 2 spot.
Well, this is where I really get interested in this kind of stuff.
They're holding strong
mostly because of longevity at this point.
Well, they're kind of holding on based on longevity because the records are really taking a nosedive. We know that.
Yeah, we know that.
But they're just kind of like they're still at it. Keith's still alive.
Yeah.
Just his
being alive,
his heartbeat. Yeah. Is kind of keeping them
at number 2.
So I worry what's going to happen now when Pink Floyd kind of realizes
we've got a chance.
We can drop this Dark Side footage,
yeah,
and kind of take the number 2 spot. Or I don't know what Zeppelin's got in the bag.
Well,
but They got this documentary
coming out.
Yeah.
Also, they could conceivably get Jason Bonham in and just fucking do it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, even if he's shit, no one's going to notice.
Yeah.
No one cares. If it's in Atmos, I think Floyd have got a real chance of taking 2.
I do too. Yeah.
Well, they're lacking no Richard Wright, but if Gilmour and Waters can patch it up, patch those daddy issues up.
Nick Mason,
he never even knew what was going on.
But if he's up there playing those big fills,
yeah, well, it's only because he doesn't know when the song's going to end. He just
give him those rototoms on stage. The whole
imagine
thing.
if they redid Live at Pompeii, but in Atmos.
Yeah, without all that kind of volcano sounds and stuff like that.
Yeah, just clean it up.
Dust scuffling around in their feet.
I tell you what, they'd have to get in shape because Gilmour's looking fine piece of ass in that.
They all look pretty. Yeah. They all look pretty good.
Do you want me to go through some of the famous people comments of Charlie passing?
I'd love to hear.
We didn't really even.
We didn't talk about Don Everly.
We can bring up Everly quickly.
I do love him. As you said, the harmonies are going to sound a little bit sweeter up in Rock and Roll Heaven now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reunited with Phil. The old strips. The old strip's going to be
Golden
nice.
Nugget is
It's going to be
cozy.
really, really sweet. To see that.
Well,
I wish I could have been there that night.
Listen, they were touring with Buddy Holly.
Yeah,
like they've not seen their. He's been up there building Rock and Roll Heaven. He's the first guy there.
You know what's funny too is the Everly Brothers famously, I think, toured with the Stones when the Stones were coming up. And Keith always said he felt really bad for them because they were kind of the older guys and nobody cared, and they sort of bowed out very gracefully. They were like, you guys are great, we love what you're doing, and we get this is the next thing, and we're not. I love that kind of thing. They're not like these,
not like the Stones.
Like the Stones. Yeah, like it's just like
she's the boss.
Yeah, or whatever they're doing.
Yeah. So I mean, a little bit of reorganizing going on up there in Rock and Roll Heaven.
Well, the drum. I mean,
I think Charlie's just relaxing. Honestly.
Yeah, he might sit in a bit, take Keith Moon. I'll take a set.
And I'll tell you right now, I know his body's not even cold, but anyone who talks to me about Charlie, well, he was a jazz drummer. It's like it's a bit weird for me to imagine someone in the greatest rock and roll band of all time not being full tilt fucking rock and roll.
I do think it's really funny whenever I hear them say, he liked rock and roll, but he considered himself.
He's the most rock and roll guy.
He's a rock and roll drummer.
He's in rock and roll heaven.
He's a wicked rock and roll drummer. Badass.
McCartney. I knew he was ill. We saw that weird video where he's kind of on the toilet with an LA2A t-shirt on.
T-shirt was interesting. Yeah. I think it was just slightly too... Paul maybe should have done another take, is what I thought.
Yeah. He looked like he
seemed like he's like
kind of been up all night.
And he hadn't really thought about what he was going to say. He said the same thing about, maybe do 1 or 2 takes, Paul.
Yeah, and it's weird. It looks like he'd screenshotted a photo of like an LA2A plugin and then asked someone to put it on a t-shirt for him.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Or maybe he's got a little sponsorship going with...
Teletronics? Yeah, possibly. But, Ernest, right, from McCartney. It's lovely.
Sincere.
Brian Wilson... beautiful, same thing, because he's just such a sad man anyway, and he was like, I'm just shocked. I feel terrible for Charlie's family. Charlie was a great drummer, and I loved the Stones' music. They made great records. Love and Mercy.
Wow, beautiful.
This is when it starts getting demented, though.
Okay.
Pete Townsend, kind of twisted, kind of narcissist that he is. Charlie Watts wept at Keith Moon's funeral. I wish I was capable of such tears today. Instead, I just want to say goodbye. It's like, what the hell's that energy? I wish I was capable of crying.
Wow. That's a strange one.
Yeah.
There's something going on there.
Flea. These guys getting involved for some reason. It's funny because these guys are the new school trying to get into the classic rock pantheon. So
not Chad Smith, huh? Flea,
yeah. Flea said the most subtly warmth and feel of any rock drummer in history. Rest beautifully, Charlie. We treasure your gifts. Earnest, but like these guys are kind of trying to get themselves in, right? Like it's kind of like Depp. You know?
Definitely.
They're trying to find a way in so people associate. I mean, the guy who's doing that the most right now is Tom Morello.
Yeah, of course.
He was just in Rage.
Flea's got a lot more place in my mind than a Depp or Morello.
Well, Morello said, trying to get it. Oh, no, I mean, he says, it's really weird. It's really strange. It's almost like he's not sure if Charlie Watts is a drummer. Because he says, rock and roll would not be rock and roll without his rhythm, style, and vibe. One of the most important architects of the music we love.
Architects. Not the word I'd use to describe. I don't know if he's really doing much designing of the music.
He's just playing drums back there. But I think he's just trying to get in with this crowd.
You know who's the most trying to get in with the crowd and get in is Dave Grohl.
I've not even read what Grohl said. Shall I look it up?
He'll definitely have something.
Oh, he'll be playing with the Stones.
Yeah,
soon.
I think he could get the gig.
Yeah,
he might do it, dude.
Yeah,
if there's any band he'd go back to drumming for, it'd be the Stones. I know he did the Queens of the Stone Age.
Quatza.
Yeah.
Sheryl Crow, she took a kind of Hillary Clinton route with it, like a kind of John McCain war hero thing. A hero is gone. No words.
Wow.
You know, that kind of, Kamala Harris putting flowers at a memorial in Vietnam for someone who got shot down.
Yeah.
It's that kind of feel.
Yeah.
Lenny Kravitz, similar vibe. The beat of the Stones, kind of self-explanatory. There are no words. Every groove has spoken for itself.
Nice.
I like that one. I thought that one was kind of sleazy.
That's good. Yeah. It is. He said it all with his sticks.
Yeah. No, in which case you don't really need to even say that.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah. He said it all. He left it all out there.
With his,
Perry Farrell. Jane's Addiction.
Yeah.
Kind of some Eastern wisdom.
Nice.
Kind of like an Alan Watts vibe.
That makes sense.
He felt the need, and, I can understand why he would, to just kind of lament on the role of drummers historically.
Okay.
Drummers are the most ensnared individuals.
Good word to use.
Though they are loudest, they are the last to be heard. They have insecurities due to the fact that everyone has their backs turned on them. Herein lies the band's secret. There is no greatness without a great drummer. Kind of almost a riddle.
Sort of a,
kind of an Alan Watts koan. Yeah, it's kind of a Siddhartha kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, often when people die, I have the feeling of like, I kind of need to make it about me a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then London Review of Books. Interesting. Because this is a stretch for me. But, DM me, because, I could be wrong. Charlie Watts was dignified in a world where dignity was never valued. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Gifted musically in a way that no other Stones really were. You got anything there?
Yeah, maybe. I could see that. I mean, we all know Keith Richards only ever played one chord. Open G.
But isn't this kind of the technical versus, it's that kind of argument
kidding.
again?
That is just what somebody told me one time.
Technique. Oh, yeah. No, I know. That. Well, I mean, that's,
I guess, if you're speaking technically, he is technically the greatest musician in the band. Probably.
What about Mick Jones?
From the Clash?
Mick Taylor.
Oh, but he's not really a Stone anymore, is he?
But maybe during his time as a Stone, he was better technically.
I don't know. Mick Jagger's a pretty technically good singer, I think.
What about Brian Jones?
Well, he was. If you're talking blues,
okay,
he might have been technically the best at blues.
Well, everyone knows Charlie Watts is a jazz musician, anyway.
Well, yeah, he was the best at jazz, probably of the band. Let's say that.
Okay.
I was listening to Beast of Burden.
I like that song.
Sounds great. Ron and Keith left and right.
Yeah.
Wicked two-guitar attack.
Yeah.
I was listening. Ron sounds awesome on it.
Yeah. Great painter,
Is he?
Yeah. Manic depressed, great painter.
He just slid right in and fit right in.
I mean, he's like, that's what I worry about with Ringo. But they're not in their 40s or 30s or anything. It's like Ron just was a party friend, wasn't he?
Yeah,
really?
They probably don't really party much anymore. Who knows?
I got a nice story for you to end this. It's from our friend Cam Rutherford, a patron and, eyewall aficionado.
For sure.
Got a lovely Charlie Watts story. Sometimes, and I don't think he'll mind me reading this, he says he's a chef. And he sent us photos of like Nielsen's house in Mayfair.
That's right.
Yeah. He says, so I'm a chef and sometimes I work in posh homes cooking for people. And one of my main clients has a driver. I won't say the driver's name, but he's an old boy, proper South London, like with a heart of gold, lovely man. Sometimes we chat and it turns out that this guy was Charlie's driver back in the 90s and early 2000s. He said Charlie and his wife are absolutely lovely, humble people. Quite often they would socialize together, etc. And every Christmas they sort of played out this routine that I guess originally happened for real, and then it became kind of like a pageantry thing. So Brian would be taking them up to the airport for their holiday, and Charlie would say he was feeling quite peckish and could they stop for something to eat. And Brian would take them to this old school fish and chip shop, fish and chips. And as they went in, Charlie would always say, "Blimey, Brian, I forgot my wallet." And Brian would reply, "It's all right, Charlie, no worries, I'll get this one." And they would sit and have this lovely like fish supper together with cups of tea. Brian would pay the bill, and then they'd get back in the car and head to Heathrow. And once they got back in, Charlie would reach into his, nice luggage or whatever and pull out a brown envelope to Brian and say, "Merry Christmas, mate. You're one in a million." And Brian said it was always a crisp $5,000 in 50s. Anyway, they played that out for years, apparently.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Yeah, isn't that a nice
really,
story?
Really nice.
So rest in peace, rest in power to a real one.
Oh, yeah. One of the greats.
There's not many bigger.
No. This is a big one, man. It makes me think about when the windfall starts happening, Mick, Keith, Paul, Neil, Bob, it's going to hurt, man.
Yeah.
But this is the first in a little while.
Well, we had The Stars Are Very Different Tonight. I've not seen many of those kind of things. Can you hear me knocking?
And R.I.P. to Dawn, too. Love the Everleys.
Yeah. All right.
Take it easy.
Peace and love.